Welcome to episode 38, Flosstube number 7 of All the Stitches. My name is Colleen and I'm coming to you from the Lakes region of New Hampshire in the United States. Today I'm going to be showing you my latest finishes, some works in progress, including some new starts from the time I saw you last, and a brief knitting update. And I want to talk about something I've been wanting to talk about for quite a while, and that is floss storage. And that will be at the end. So I will jump right into it now. First of all, this was a finish I showed you before. I'm going to deal with the light again, I'm afraid. This is For the Love of Nature by Teresa Kogut. I'm going to try this side. A little better. And I know I showed this to you previously, but I have framed it since then. Again, it's a frame from my favorite vendor, and that is Custom Frame Solutions. I ordered the custom size frame. I laced it to frame it, and I am very happy with this piece. Some very sharp-eyed viewer commented on wanting to know what color the deer was. And I'd say that's someone that must have stitched this, because she would know the deer is the only floss that I changed the color from the called for color. The deer and the fox I did the same color, and that is the Classic Colorworks Maple Syrup. So that is my fully finished For the Love of Nature. One more that you have seen before, but it's a fully finished now, and that is Cardinal Kin by Plum Street Samplers. Last time I showed it to you just sewn right side out, but flat, because I hadn't stuffed it. So I decided to, I stuffed it, and I stuffed the bottom, about third of it, with ground walnut shells, just to give it some substance so it wouldn't topple over. And I used Lady Dot Creates little mini palms and tacked those along the edges. I'm really pleased with this cute little thing. The spot where I left open to stuff, it didn't look all that neat, so I just created a little wool applique leaf, trying to mimic the leaf shapes on the top. So another one done. Now, I have quite the flock of birds going here, and I don't know why I got into these birds, but they were really fun. I think with spring and all, it seemed like a good idea. Another finish, and this is the Bluebird Sampler by Heart and Hand. You may or may not remember from a previous video, I did the Redbird Sampler, and love doing that too. So I made the Bluebird. Now, I think these are supposed to be the same size, but look what happened. And what I did, it was by accident, but it's fine. I ended up putting too much space between these top rows of letters. So instead of, I didn't want to take the whole row out. And I ended up just continuing to put that same, I think it was 3 spaces between the rows of letters. And so it made for an overall bigger pillow, now, which is fine. I mean, I like all different shapes and sizes together. My only complaint with this is my own fault. I trimmed it too close, which I didn't have to cut out any letters or stitching, but it just made it kind of difficult to view the whole thing at once. But I do love these these little bird pillows. I used fabric from my stash in both cases, and this is a Lady Dot Creates rickrack that has sort of an antique look. More birds in the flock. We have all of the Bluebird, Redbird, and the next one are stitched on a 16 count Aida, and the blue thread here is Chesapeake Bay, which I thought was a really pretty blue. I think that's my favorite blue. The next one is Hummingbird Sampler, also by Heart and Hand. This was also stitched on the 16 count, and it is Classic Colorworks Weeping Willow. Little different shape and size, but so much fun to do. I was thinking the other day that my father, if someone said something silly or that didn't make sense, he always said, "There goes a flock over now." And the other day when I was setting up and I put all these little bird pillows around me, I thought of that for the first time in years. He would say, "There goes a flock over now." So here comes another one from the flock. This is a finish of the Luminous Fiber Arts Sew Tweet. This I did with my friend Gloria as a Sal, as a stitch along, and you can still go to Instagram at #SewTweet and post yours too if you've made this or you'd like to stitch this. It was a fun little stitch, and both Gloria and I have finished. And it's interesting to see, she does a little something different than I do, so it's worth going and taking a peek and seeing how she did the spool of thread. It's really fun to see. So this was really fun little stitch, and on the back I put fabric around the edge, and all I had of this fabric was strips. So then I took some of those strips and I made the backing for it. Now this is my first time putting rickrack around the edges, and I had mixed results. It was not that easy to get the corners the way you want them. They're just going to fall where they fall, you know. But I think, you know, I did the best I could, and you know what? Better done than perfect. But that is Sew Tweet. My next finish is not completely finished, but it is Stitcher, also from Luminous Fiber Arts. This, once again, was I'm trying to find a good place for it. This, once again, was, Gloria and I did another Sal. This is hashtag on Instagram, hashtag Stitcher Sal. And once again, she's added something different to it with her buttons. And go ahead and take a look at that, and also join in. None of these will close. That hashtag, just if you stitch this or have stitched this, go ahead and post a picture of it. We'd love to see it. So this was fun. In fact, I really couldn't put this down. I was like a stitch lunatic. I just wanted to finish this. I ordered a frame. Once I stitched that oval, that was the first thing I did. When I got that oval done, I measured it and I ordered a frame, because I just need to have this hanging somewhere. It does get buttons sewn on. See if I have the pattern here. And I'm not sure you can see it, but see how the buttons get sewn on? Gloria used red hard buttons, and it is adorable. Okay, so I have to do the buttons. I did this in DMC 816, which, I think part of why I love working on this is it is the perfect red for stitching. It just it reminds me of the real traditional red work stitching. It's that perfect. I think you call it turkey red. Love it. So that will have my buttons, and that will be a finish for next time. Fully finished. Here's what else I've been working on. Actually, a couple of weeks I worked on this, and I really have crossed a threshold. I really feel like I have taken a big step in my stitching, because I stitched on 32 count Belfast linen. Now, if you've been watching me, you know I've kind of thought, I'm not sure I can do that. I'm not sure my eyes can do that, but I can do it. Wasn't easy, but I could do it. But here's the problem. Here's the good news and the bad news. The good news is I did it. So I used 32 count Vintage Country Mocha, and I'm not showing it to you for a reason. I can't show it to you. It's a secret. It's a surprise. It's a gift for Christmas. So I won't be showing, I'll take a picture of it before I give it, but I'm afraid I cannot show it to you until after Christmas. So sorry about the tease, but I just wanted to share with you that I stitched on 32 count, and I'm so pleased that I can do that. And I can I feel like I can move on and do some other stitches that I didn't think I could do until now. Wanted to share that with you. So what else do I have? I have a few other things that I am working on. Okay, I didn't press, but you'll forgive me, I'm sure. This is something I am working on as a weekend stitch. Sorry about the noise. Home is Where the Wool Is by Tracy Campbell. You can see it's right up my alley with all the wool and another bird. I don't know what's going on with these birds. So here is my start this past weekend. I know it's really hard to see, but it is the contents of the basket. So you can see I don't know what that is. It's like a little honey. It's like a little, I thought maybe it was a honey jar, but I think it's just a little drink with a straw coming out. We have 2 knitting needles in the middle and 2 spools of thread. You can see a red and a yellow ball of yarn, and then there'll be a blue ball of yarn, and then it sits in that basket. And wow, I thought it would be a quick stitch, which it is, because I put it on a 14 count Aida in white. But each little thing, the little jar, the yarn, everything is 2 or 3 shades. So she has a lot of shading going on, which kind of is going to give it a little depth. Plus, I was very surprised to see just about everything is backstitched. So that will be a job. But it's so cute. I'd love to have it just hanging in here, maybe behind here where my spring quilt is. So what else do I have? Well, here's my update on my stitch for the 25th of every month. That is Waxing Moon Designs, Search the Sky. And if you remember where I was, I've done quite a bit. I did the smoke coming out of the chimney. I did the snow around the house, 2 trees. I believe there are 4 more trees to do, 2 on either side. And then I can start all of the snowflakes that surround the whole piece on the blue. So I'm very excited about how that's coming. And after a while, once I got used to this fabric that was kind of getting on my nerves, I love it. This was a recent start just this week. I'm having a little bit of a stitch mania. For me, I'm certainly not going to start one every day or even every week, because I just can't, that would make my brain hurt. So, but I did want to start a couple of new ones this month in honor of Stitch Mania. This is one I wanted to do a long time from the Drawn Thread. I know it's very hard to see. It's North Country Sampler. I am doing this on 25 count Lugana. You have to forgive my my thread hanging, but that's as much as I have done. The stars and the moon and the beginnings of the log cabin. I have enjoyed this so much. And you know, I don't know, when I get to stitching something, at the beginning of the month, I thought, oh, I'm going to try starting something new every week. But I don't know. It's just not me, because when I'm working on something and I love it, I don't want to put it down. And I don't think I could just put something down before I'm ready in my head to put it down. Does that make sense? Anyway, that's my new start for May. Now I'm going to have just a brief little knitting update. for those of you who knit before I talk about floss storage. Here is my recent knitting finish. It's called the Bobble Hat. You know how I love sheep. You know, don't you, how I love sheep? So it's the Bobble Hat by Donna Smith. The yarn is 220 Superwash Merino. Made the pom-pom. And I've made this before, years ago. I think it was my first color work knitting project. And I made it so big. I used a heavier weight yarn and I didn't really know what I was doing. But the hat's so big it would fit, you know, Bigfoot or something. So I made it again in a worsted weight wool. And it fits and I love it and I'm ready for next winter. My next knitting update is I've started, for those that knit, you'll know I started to challenge myself this year to knit through all my Christmas sock yarn. So at least most of it. So this is number 5. And I only have one done. But I have a start on the second sock. So that's a good thing. I decided to try up some different heels because it was getting a little boring. This is my 5th pair of Christmas socks this year. So I tried let me look at my note here. It's a pattern from the Autumn Acorn and it's called Magic Heel Socks. So instead of a heel flap and gusset or an afterthought heel, you create this ribbing where the heel should be. And I was skeptical, but let me tell you, I put it on and it's a good stretchy fabric on the back of your heel and just starts just under your heel and goes up the back. And I really like it. And it's so easy. You don't have to do any heel flap stuff. So I thought it was a good thing to try. The yarn is from West Yorkshire Spinners, and it's one of their Christmas releases from last year, and the color is gingerbread. Hey, that's all for the knitting, so you can come back, Flosstube. The next thing I want to talk about is floss storage. So I'm going to be asking you some questions as I talk about my floss storage and I really hope that people will leave comments in the comments section below because I would love to know. I think I'm very interested in how people store things, work with their tools and so forth. So I would love to know what you do. And I'm going to just tell you a little bit about what I do. For a long time, my whole stitching life, have been a bobbinator. So I keep my DMCs, there's some old Anchor in here, old JP codes, but I keep them bobbinated. I have a couple boxes like this. And that's my first question to you. If you are a bobbinator like me, do you put them in this direction so the color shows, or do you flip them up and have the number sticking out of the top? I saw someone do that at one point and I said, that's a great idea. So I flipped them all up with the number. But wouldn't you know it, the next couple things I worked on, I chose my own floss instead of going for call for. So then it was a real nuisance to dig. You have to really dig through to see the colors. So I flip them back. But I'm curious, what do you bobbinators do? Which direction do you keep them? So that is how I store my DMC. Now, I mentioned a few floss tubes ago about that cross-stitch app called X-Stitch Plus, which I still love, and I inventory my charts, my fabric, some stitching supplies, and some floss, but I don't inventory my DMC. I keep them numerically. They're easy enough to find whether or not I have something, so I haven't bothered to do that yet. Whether I do it in the future, who knows. But I do inventory my specialty threads. So in this box, that is, I'm sorry if I'm making a lot of clanking noises. In this box, I keep over dyes, specialty threads. Like I have some Cosmo floss. That's not a good solution. I have to change this. But in here, I keep on rings my Classic Colorworks, all the over dyes, right? Classic Colorworks, Gentle Arts. It's getting a little full. This is really full. This is Weeks Dye Works. So I keep them all on rings, and I keep them alphabetical by color. How else would you do it, right? And I do inventory. I'm going to stop making noises. I do inventory all of these flosses on that app, which is useful. Okay. Now, what do I do with all the DMC flosses that I've kind of amassed collections, and I don't even know how. They're untouched, so I bought them for a reason, but who knows what the reason was. Maybe they went with some other chart. But that box was getting bigger and bigger. And I watched one day, it was one of, do you watch Jean Farish, her YouTube channel? Well, her YouTube channel is so instructional. And I think when I came back to cross stitch and tried to learn the right way to do things, it was really important for me to watch her. So recently she did one talking about her floss storage. And she showed something that light bulbs went off in my head. No big deal, but to me it was. And she got this box, which is meant for photos. I think it's meant for 4x6 photo storage. She got it at Amazon. If I can figure it out, I will put in the description box, I will put a link or at least a description of it. But the worst part of it is the latch is still a little tight, so it's a little knuckle buster, but it has loosened up. But in this box, which is like a little suitcase, is these little boxes. They are perfect size. They fit floss that's, you know, hasn't been touched, so it's still in the skein. They fit perfectly. Now, I took these and said, well, there's still, you know, I don't really want to inventory these, but I need some way to quickly see what's in here. So I just got some, 3x4 or whatever they are, index cards. And I've started to write the floss that's in the box. I keep it on the top. I don't even have to open the box to see what's in it. So for me, this system works great. And I haven't finished doing the little numbers on the top, but I'm going to clank around here. But I did learn one thing. I have a lot of 310. I don't know why. I also learned I have a lot of white and ecru. You know how you put them in all these different places? And then you bring it together and you find out how much you have. So I have everything, all of my DMC that is not bobbinated, I have in this box. And I am very happy with this. This has really worked for me. And I suggested if you have a lot of floss that is just in miscellaneous places, think about this. That's basically how I store all my floss. Now, that may change a little. I will probably always bobbinate because I started out that way. I'm not going to undo all this and put them on floss drops. I don't always love working on floss drops. When I'm actually working on a project, I don't always like floss drops. I tend to get like a mess of threads in my project bag when I use floss drops. But let me ask you, for those who store specialty threads, over dyes, and so forth, how do you store them? How do you organize them? I know there's a million different ways, but I would love to hear some comments about how you organize them. Because this system is probably going to change because it's getting a little bit overdone, a little bit full. So I'd love to know your ideas. The other thing is, when you're working on a project, how do you organize your threads? How do you keep them with your projects? I do it probably depending on how many flosses there are, what types of flosses there are. I do it differently. So say, for example, on Search the Sky, they're mostly, in fact, they're all overdyes on specialty. So I have them on a ring, and I just keep them, instead of a drop, I just keep them on the tags. But like I say, they can get a little snarly on the bottom. So for that project, I do it that way. For this new Home is Where the Wool Is, I have this little tin that my friend Jerry gave me a couple of years ago. And it is perfectly fits DMC bobbinated yarn thread. And it's so pretty. Do you believe for that little piece, there is all this. There are so many colors and color changes in it, but they're so bright and cheerful. So that's one way. And I enjoy working with this little tin. For the Northwood Sampler, again, I have bobbins and a couple of little odd threads on a ring. And you can see I haven't neatened this up. So this is like a porcupine, you know, with threads coming out everywhere. I think that is all of my current storage. So, but do let me know how when you're working with your threads, how do you keep them together? How do you keep them with your project? What method do you use? I went searching online on YouTube to see how people store their threads. And I came across something. I'm going to mention it, but I'm not trying to enable you. I'm really not. But I saw something that is British. It comes out of the UK, and I've not seen any place in the US that sells them. But it is called Pick and Chip Floss System. Do you know about this? They are the perfect little chips of acrylic, I want to say, maybe plastic or acrylic. There's two kinds. One you can bobbinate, one are floss drops. They have labels that are high above where the thread would be, and labels that are large. The numbers are large, and they're color coordinated. So say, for example, the blue thread has a blue label. The ones that are on drops have a system that you buy that is like a rack. So you have these numbers sitting on top, and the floss hangs from the drops. And it looks like, from what I saw, you can get from IKEA a certain type of file type drawer that fits this insert. If you have some money to burn and you have the space for a whole cabinet of floss, and maybe you're at sort of the beginning of your floss collecting days, where I feel like I'm sort of at the end, so I'm not going to do it. I'm not going there. But look into that. And also, you know, you'd have to pay for shipping from the UK. But I thought they're ideal, both If you like to bobbinate, you can do it that way. If you like the drops, you can do it that way. And then I only saw them on Etsy. And then I stopped looking because I know I'm not going to go there. But let me tell you, Pip and Chip, Google it. Look that up. I think that's all my stitching. That's all my enabling. I think those are all my questions I had for you today. Please, if you would, give me a thumbs up, subscribe, hit the bell so you'll be notified of future videos. And please do leave comments below. I'd love to hear from you. Until next time, I hope all of your stitches bring joy.